All right. Hey, how's it going? My name is Harold. I've been a software engineer for 9+ years, coming up on 10. And what I want to do is just tell you about why I quit my job 5 months ago and what happened. A spoiler alert, I did get another job a month after. But I want to talk to you about my revelation about what I went through because I think it might help out. I'm not here to sell anybody anything or anything like that. Eventually, who knows what I'll do with this channel, but I think for right now, the goal is purely just to help engineers and kind of help them transition in this time of like uncertainty. And so I believe I've stumbled across something that, like a concept that will help with any engineer out there dealing with this kind of fear of like replacement or anything like that, or maybe just pure stress about work itself. You let me know at the end, or you let me know if this ends up being helpful. But anyway, to keep myself on track, I got two things. One, I have a list of things I want to cover. And two, I've got a nice handy timer here. So I'm going to go ahead and set that. And I'm going to do my best to not go over 45 minutes to help keep myself from yapping too much. So, and stay relevant, because that's the thing. So basically what I want to talk to you about in this video is, yes, I quit my job 5 months ago. And yes, spoiler alert, I did get another job a month later. I'm pretty brutal about my process. Like I have like a very strict, applying, interview, reach out process. If you're ever curious about that, reach out and I'll do a video on it or something. But anyway, yeah, I ended up getting another job. I'm going to tell you why I think I got burnt out on that last job. I'm going to talk about my experience really briefly. I have a video on another channel about my experience, so I'm going to leave most of that out. I'll give you the key cliff notes. And then I'll tell you what my revelation was, and how I'm going to use it. I'm going to document that here so that we can kind of go through it together. And then, why I'm on YouTube. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. I got really stressed at my previous role. It was my first senior software engineer role. I kept that role for almost 5 years. I wasn't even performing at the level that I thought I should be. And so the minute I start catching wind that, I wasn't performing the way that most everyone thought that I was performing correctly. The minute I caught wind of someone not thinking that I was performing at the level that I should be, that's when I started to I just automatically triggered a burnout. And I just was already checked out because it didn't feel like my fate was in my own hands. And so essentially I decided to take my fate in my own hands first. And instead of things going down any kind of path or anything like that, it was just, you know what? I have enough for a few months. I left California for that reason. Me and my wife are, not in California anymore, so that, rent is a lot cheaper for a nice house and everything like that, versus the 5+ K I was paying when I was out there per month. And so, but anyway, basically I had 5 months of rent taken care of. I'm the sole, I take care of everything. My wife did end up getting a small part-time job, but it's just really for social. And so, the pressure was kind of on for a minute, but I took care of that right away. Ended up finding a pretty good role, a good senior role for myself, and taking a pay cut, as well as a drop in responsibilities. I noticed right away when I actually got this new role that like, yes, I have like expectations of like, senior work and everything like that. But I also was, not only my pay was kind of making me feel like I needed to do more, but also more was just expected of me in such a small, very profitable company. And so, there are things that I need to do like documentation and all these other things like across the board and rotating on call, which is great. Like, but there's just so many things that we're stacking on top of that. And maybe in another video, I'll go like a little bit deeper because I really do want to get to the point of this like video, which is the revelation I had or whatever. The flip side of that is I think the reason I wasn't performing where I thought I should be is my focus was divided on other things. Any of you who are a software engineer who had become a software engineer in the past, I don't know, five years, probably has tried to create a SaaS on your own or try to like create your own products or business or side hustle or any of those things. And you don't have to be a software engineer. You might be on this video just as a corporate employee or something. Maybe you experienced some burnout or something. But basically, when you have other things that you're passionate about and you're treating those, you're trying to do a side business, sometimes you get really into those side businesses and you start taking away from your other things that are valuable. And it doesn't always mean your job. Sometimes it means you're taking away from your relationship. Sometimes it means you're taking away from your health, or you're sacrificing other things. And so in my case, definitely, unequivocally, it was draining from my day-to-day work because there was so much expected in that role that it didn't leave that much energy left over for my other things. So I would go through this process, this like seasonal, flow where like some months I would be doing extremely well at my job. And then other months I would be doing really like not that great, like be doing whatever. And so I think the key here is, making sure that if you are doing a side hustle or anything like that, maybe don't think about it as a this versus that. And then that's where like the revelation is. Future me is gonna edit this and I'm gonna put a timestamp where I'm actually gonna talk about my kind of like revelation. I'll put it on the screen just in case you want to skip this next part. But in my notes here, I thought it would be important for me to like tell you about my history as an engineer really quick, really briefly. And I'm not doing any like edits or cuts or anything like that. I like to do a lot of my stuff, like my videos raw. So do what you will with that. But so basically, like I said earlier, I've been a software engineer for 9 years. I did like technical support stuff before that for like 7 years. Which is insane. So like right out the gate of like high school, I instantly started doing like IT work, basically. Got burned out on that really quickly and realized that was not what I wanted to do. Like that's a whole nother story in itself. But I decided somewhere down the line that software was where I wanted to be. So I spent hours and hours every day, like, studying and for 6 months plus, just like super hardcore. And 9 years ago, I ended up landing my first software engineer role, which most of my roles have been very iOS centric. I work on everything, but they've been very iOS centric. So my first one was just doing, enterprise apps for U-Haul. Did some internal applications, built those for employees. And then my second role, I got super lucky. Like on the way, I actually taught a boot camp. That was a contract role I got. So I was teaching boot camps on a seasonal basis and getting a little bit of cash there. Then finally, I got lucky and I became a build and release engineer for Apple. And that was really, really cool. That was like that was probably like one of the highlights of my career, obviously. That too was very, very, very stressful. And I can always do a video on that too. Like, let me know in the comments, like what you would like to know, like what, what you're interested in. But anyway, I did build and release engineering for Apple for almost 2 years, like right at 2 years. Then I started to miss like customer interaction a little bit. So I was feeling that, and it was like 2019. No, right at 2020. Okay, so I was missing my like human interaction, like not human interaction, but customer interaction. And so I experimented with taking on a pretty lucrative role as a solutions engineer, which was also kind of iOS centric, but I was like writing documentation and like TypeScript or something for the website. And but anyway, being a solutions engineer was like dealing with other engineering teams and helping them integrate our product into their product. So that was that. I did solutions engineering. Then 2020, obviously, so I wasn't in that role that long. I ended up moving on to be a software engineer again, and for a company called Ibotta. And I worked on their receipt scanning stuff. And then, I did that for almost a year. And then the company I left, I had been following the company for like almost like, was it five, almost 10 years maybe at that point. I was following them for a long time. I was a really big fan, especially because I was like interested in drones and robotics and stuff like that. So, but anyway, I landed that role, and that was like the highlight, dream job, like 10 out of 10. Even all the way up into the end is dream job. Like, yeah, there was a lot of responsibilities, and I think there were high standards and everything like that. But I mean, the pay was great, the project was great, like everything was great. Like, but there just wasn't any time. I didn't feel like I had time. I think I was encouraged to, have more work-life balance, but that was impossible with the ambitions that I had outside of, just strictly being a software engineer. So yeah, I mean, that was that. I left that role, and immediately, as I put my notice in, I was like, I have to be responsible. Like, I'm, bringing in the money for, me and my wife and stuff. So I had to have something. So, I went ahead and looked. I wasn't looking for a senior. Like, I happened to get senior. It was supposed to be sort of a senior lead role, but immediately when I got hired, their needs changed and they need a senior. So I was like, hey, that's fine. I don't need to be a lead. It's okay. But anyway, so I ended up securing something for us, and it's really changed my perspective a lot and given me a lot more clarity into what was going on. And I've already explained a bunch about how I think the responsibilities were so high that it was a little bit tough for me to try to work on something else at the same time as working at that company. I think my passion needed to fully be devoted into what I was working on for the most part, especially with how ambitious I am outside. So taking a huge pay cut and, being able to work on work and really put some really strong energy into work, but then still have energy afterward to work on projects was huge. So, we're here now. the revelation, because I've released, by the way, context, I've released like 3-4 like products, like on the App Store, on the web, that have generated some revenue. So like I've made some money on the internet. I'm not. It's really only been that I couldn't devote my time, like distribute my energy the right way. So, but basically and I have a video on that if you want to go find that on my other channel, or I'll put it in the description or something, so you can see what apps I've made, what products I've made. But the revelation is that I don't think that as an engineer, you have to do this like one or the other thing, and you don't have to have side hustles. And what I've been doing for the last like month is treating my projects, work, and everything as just one thing, just like one thing. And I had to get it out of my head. So I built myself some software. I'll probably do a video on that eventually. But I built myself like a personal application that kind of like organizes all of the things, these 5 core like businesses and sort of lanes that I have for myself, so that I can, treat everything as like one. And I think what it comes down to is like you treating yourself as a business, like you're the business, if that makes sense. And I think the reason why this like really helped me is because I've identified so much as like being a software engineer that it's hard for me to think of myself as like a business owner sometimes, or it was anyway. Like I'm kind of at a different stage now. But I think the real challenge has been, treating everything as like separate. And then it's always this versus that, instead of like holistically, everything is responsible for my income, and mentally everything is responsible for it, and everything contributes to my career. And so I think my attitude about work is that it's a part of my dream. It's a part of my goals until it's no longer necessary, maybe. But it is very much included in as one of the things that I'm working on towards my future. So it's one of my 5 key like assets. And so that's the thing. I'm treating everything as an asset instead. So what that means for like work is I'm more passionate about work because it is a part of my craft. And it's, yes, like a company there's this other side to it, right? This other like sort of attitude that has been floating around the internet. And, I 100% still agree with it. And it's that you can be replaced and you can be fired at any point in time. It's not your company, right? Agendas change, and therefore like, you're not in control. But it is an asset. And so you could almost treat it as, and it's it's like my mental definition of an asset. I know it's not a literal asset, but so you can almost treat it like a contract. Like this is a contract that I am, trying to keep while I work on my other assets that I have going. And your contract is just the biggest one because it's the most important one. It's, what's bringing in, it's putting food on the table, right? So, yeah, that's basically the revolution in a nutshell, is that I'm having a better time working on all of my side projects because I've neatly organized them for myself, and I've decided that every single one of them is an asset, including work. So when I get up in the morning and I devote my time to work, it's not a drag because it's a part of the vision. It's not separate. And so I think on this channel especially, my goal is to help engineers out there try to evolve themselves. And I think that kind of gets into like my last bit here as like, why am I on YouTube, right? This is the last thing. So I'm here right now because I want to help other people while they're going through a similar thing that I'm going through. I have a little bit more experience than where I'm talking about right now. Like, I've made a bunch of products. I've made some money. I make gas money or whatever, like on some of my apps. But that's mainly due to the approach that I've had before. I want to document this and help people to, learn from what I'm doing and maybe make your own variation of how I'm approaching things. So, and eventually I'll, of course, like release, the software if it's valuable. I'll probably talk about that later, but to stay on the point, I'm here because when I realized that, when you write, blogs and stuff like that, because that's what I'm doing on my main website right now. When you write blogs and stuff like that and articles and everything, you're starting to grow your presence, not just like on YouTube, but like you're starting to increase your value because people are going to come and find you from all different locations, and people will learn to trust you more as well when you have things out there. So like on my old website, I had like a whole section, my old portfolio, I had a whole section that had publications. Like I was on a podcast with Sean Allen a long time ago. He was really big on the iOS community. I was on, a couple other podcasts. I did a talk with, for a diversity event or whatever. And so I think that's like, the whole point is like all the things that you do, including your work, the things that you build on the side, they're all just one thing. And I think that instead of treating them as separate things, when you bring it all together, it helps you have like a very holistic approach to everything. Now, when you wake up, that's how it is for me right now. When I wake up, I'm not thinking about, I need to make time to like work on this one thing. It's just like, okay, like these are my list of like priorities of things to do in the day. And those individual tasks have to do, like some of them happen to do with something else. Or, like I basically have a queue that I create for myself. It's almost like a Jira board-ish, but it's all associated with these core assets that I've defined. And I basically just have like tickets that are associated with whatever I want to do, whether that's writing an article, whether it's working on a bug, doing research on something. And I pay attention and I have like analytics for myself for, how much energy I'm putting into each one of my assets. And so at the end of the week, it all resets. But at the end of the week, I can look back and I can reflect on each one of these things and see what the outcomes were for each one. And, I can start to realize like, oh, am I devoting a little bit too much here, too much there? But in the moment, I don't stress about it at all. I just create tickets for all of them. And yes, the contract is the most urgent, but they're all important. And so, sometimes there are things that are urgent, but not important. And there are some things that are important but not urgent. And there are some things that are both, right? So like I think that's kind of the concept with, you know, dealing with everything as like one thing. It's just you have a bunch of things you need to do, and they all associate with that one. So I don't know how helpful this is gonna. Hopefully, this is gonna be helpful for you. So far, it's been really helpful for me. You know, at the moment, like I said, I'm not. You know, who knows what I will. You know, try to help out with in the future. But I think, you know, my goal right now isn't to like sell anything. It's really just to help. So if any of the information in this video helped you out, or it's relatable or anything like that, drop a like. Let me know I'm doing the right thing. Leave a comment, and subscribe to keep following up with what's going on. And I'll put some links below for my other channel if you want to see like some of the other things I've worked on. I did some videos on that in the past. But yeah, here we're just working on evolving as engineers, you know, in this new world. I think it's tough to think about just devoting yourself to one salary, to one company. And so I think with the way that things are today, it's important for us to diversify our portfolio as much as possible, but still re-inspire yourself about your current role. And if it's too much, yeah, like maybe start looking for something else. But have a hard look and really ask yourself the tough questions of whether or not this is too much for you right now to handle, while also, you know, taking care of the other assets in your portfolio. And if the answer is that, you know, it's not too much, then get inspired about your current work. It's your craft, and, you know, bring that spirit of engineering back. Think back of like your first days of like getting your first role. Some of you may not have had your first role yet, but if you have had your first software engineer role, think back to that time of how excited you were and how inspired you were and how much you wanted to, you know, prove yourself. Use that feeling to get back into devoting yourself to your craft. It doesn't mean that you have to pour all of your energy into the company that you're working for, but it does mean that it does matter that you produce good work. So, because it bleeds over, that action bleeds over into the other things. I'll mention this last thing and then I'm gonna let you go. So, I truly believe if you give a lot of energy, if your quality of work is lacking in one area, then in the other areas it bleeds over too. It starts to show. And so what you want to do is approach things with a very clear mind. And you want your level of execution to be of the same quality across the board. And I think that's where I'm really trying to hit home, is like, you want your quality to be across the board great, because you never know who's number one, you never know who's watching. You never know what opportunities you'll get. And I think the goal is to be open to all the possibilities, not just one, all of them. So, yeah, anyway, if you enjoyed this, leave a like and comment, subscribe, and I'll keep doing these. These are really great. It's great reflection time for me as I'm, you know, going through the process of things. I've been in the game for a while, so, but I think that I'm really starting to ramp up, and so it'll be good to document this stuff. Anyway, take care. I'll see you later.